Hello, Facebook. In my house, in my area, there are people recorded with further child abuses tied to people on the sex offender registry, especially some that might be on there undercover. As the worst, child offenders with schools. Now, this is a straight pattern of racketeering from former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, former standing chairperson on RICO Law, Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. Federal criminals that were his co-defendants with a daughter that was in my grade and never had a class with her. Any of the schools. I don't know if only the high school, what school she went to in grammar school, what. I don't know anything about her much. But she's involved with a whole bunch of other people also with other federal criminal co-defendants of former director of the FBI in a 2006 case, which came about that part of a case slash S from the Trade Center attack, for example, another part of it. It was in Washington one time. These are the same people associated with that criminally with other natures of racketeering and with other methods of it. In other words, I was just the son of the plaintiff who won an NLRB case, but his enemies in that case were stealing from pensions, using the pensions for crimes with overt criminal enterprises and with police forms of collusion and with courts. This is through time a whole bunch of on off the state judicial branch offices, on off the state prison offices, people that were first facilitated to crimes with databases and with drugs where they're using that because they have measured this is an exploitation of how this is a sustained fake care and demonstrated offensive, even vetting, offensive evidence reception predator roles. People that they influence kids because these is how the branches individually grouped and together are maintained criminally foreign influenced. Intercampuses for everyone is a victim of what came from before the ground of education, knowing that has a tie to our value as quality of fact, cheap in nature, before the ground of education on off campuses and layers, knowing that the intercampus systems would be defended with and by and as criminal insidiousness natures of positive since semi-ancient times, causing negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, that they effectively propagated self-value whereas in how fact treatment nature, premise treatment nature, quality of sequence treatment nature, and then that defended propagated criminally foreign influence states and areas, sciences, fact treatment. So and therefore fact treatment nature. That is that originally sustained what is propagated only capable of being lie progressions from each database tied click. This is how the branches are raised to a gang. Organized crime rules with another method of organized crime that bonded a whole bunch of other methods, natures, and roles with overt criminal enterprises, with private criminal enterprises, with the sciences, again, criminally foreign influence, but specifically because knowing that it would cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, therefore lie progressions in that, therefore standing lie progression cover up need to exploit that. They're here everywhere. In other words, in sustained ways. They kept the branches through administrations with stewardships of themselves, their help. The only this is already used time, always too fast, too slow, whereas it has with the voices of science, not by accident of an as value nature system roles tactical ulterior from science's actual identity, which is interscience is simultaneously different in relationship to its own course, its own method of value progression, perfect, with a little bit more of a semi nature coming through of its complete self. It's a complete nature of relationship to itself that won't change. That we only fill as the nature of volume, is the value of yin yang. So I believe one of the reasons you're not supposed to change things. But now, like change. This is about the Trinity correlation nature. It's not about change or like when they have inventing new words, bringing new words into the dictionary. We came a long way to have that, but it's still not healed from its obfuscation. There's a difference between changing a dictionary to make it even more refined, more sophisticated, more connected, understanding definition, or changing it. Change is not the thing. For example, and they're forcing the suits and ties nations, for example, in relationship to nuclear weapons, in relationship to what is it called? Chemical threats, no associated elements with hospitals and things like that. We have offensive, original, and still before our founders were born here and there. This knew that it was going to build what is now the phenomenon of modern nations, semi-ancients before them, semi-ancient since before modern religions, greatly about how internation sciences became criminally foreign influenced. In other words, we're no longer by the science that is the identity that is a simultaneous nature and demonstration of our nature of volume. We have the religions not let their own voice by the people that are forced to be their stewardship. So because their identities of it out of sequence. They're all in many nations are in collusion with psychology, physical delusions, all kinds of racketeering rules. When they use words empathy on CBS today, they have Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz recorded, confessed with, and demonstrated involved with physical delusions and with racketeering, with quality of fact, cheating nature because they're involved with various natures of courts with them criminally involved, various natures of police former director FBI down, criminal uses of areas of human fact cheating nature. Now, how they were, this is private now, in collusion with their sources interbranch, those networks. These are database crime roles. These are the database. We had a database structure here, since before our founders were born. Not with computers, but even computers are newer. You know what I mean? Our founders didn't have free speech. There was a database relationship in layers. No one could have unity in layers short of being anything but criminally foreign influence group. And you need to react to what they can to the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts in nature, not by accident, like predicate acts, like wrongdoers, wrongdoing. I'm not a lawyer. Needed to blame it on things, vaccines. See, I use what is true always and not denying any exceptions, not valuing them having been denied. And that shows that shows that we have physical delusions and criminal foreign influence, racketeering with human fact cheating nature. Worse than identity thefts, but that too. Worse than identity frauds, but that too. Worse than fake counters to it. We have worse than physical delusions when they say, "Oh, the value of jobs." Offensively, that's being used. We have the FBI. We have the transition from ALCA to RICO. The roles with RICO and the Homeland Security, recorded involved with the racketeering, involved with the FBI. A whole bunch of people from my town associated with the buildings downtown Hartford. A whole bunch of people associated with a Dillon family on and off a 2-route highway, involved with identity thefts, identity frauds, sequence shifts, wire crimes roles, mail crime roles, officers forging names, switching names, forcing their way into my house and making threats regarding Scalora family, pretending passion because they need to pretend I know this guy now because this Scalora family was involved with acting in the past to pretend they knew me. In other words, criminally. In other words, in roles, whatever they wrote in the past, but the people tied to them also were involved. They didn't go to my school. I don't even know where he lived. I still don't know where he lives. I recorded, confessed, and demonstrated is somewhere tied now. He used to live in another city. They said I don't know. But they say he lives now near the school, the principal sex offender. And this brought this up when they were forcing that by their roles with crime methods. Since I was a kid in that school, not having the other natures of crimes with the kids there. These are doctors with New Britain Superior Court, with other natures of courts and their kids, with a whole bunch of prosecutors, with a whole bunch of natures of drug crimes, attaching kids to fake locations through time. Now, see, they sustain. Now they can't. They need to keep offensively what they have. They've been using courts to attach innocent people and people that are hurt and just reacting wrong and or correctly. They're going to lie about it too. They're fake recorded things into databases. Now, kids, not just attaching us to fake locations. They're forging names, switching names, consciously preventing means to free speech offensively because they were already criminally foreign influence branch of the government since before they were born. They were raised like the same way the overt criminal enterprises are. They're also recorded in collusion with them, needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, and progressive lies and natures of identity theft and identity fraud and worse, extortion and things like that, mail crime rolls. Therefore illusions. Wire crime role, therefore illusions, and pretending other. They use statutes pretending they should care about the integrity of the identity of the FBI. Not one modern nation has organized crime counting bodies with integrity. They do that because of the nature of worse than extortion, worse than fact cheating nature, slavery, and torture, and lack of free speech that forced originally instill Trade Center, other nations' roles with the cliques that are with a whole bunch of natures of private agreements that you can't defend in us at the same time. Not by accident, where we have a whole bunch of mass forsaken, reliant upon systems only fathomable now, tactically denatured relationship to nature, a culture of ground, understanding of human culture, which is Trinity, nature. It is our value, not just being a physical body. So we have all kinds of medical racketeering and involved also with the interbranch, individually grouped and together crime methods. And crime natures actually recorded originally and still, offensively preventing equality of free speech, pretending lies about people valuing already having been facilitated database crimes tied to now these are people next to schools. Now they're using the phenomenon of the pattern with the shootings, real or made up, because especially if made up because there are patterns between it with the same families associated with the investigators of the Trade Center attack, also involved with other foreign families. These are people that are facilitated to it. People are worried about business interests and things like that. That's fine, but don't hide from mandated law now. Pretend that you could use that for racketeering against us just because you're in collusion with former director of the FBI down. Comey treatments, Mueller treatments. These are fact cheating nature racketeering roles. They made you go. This came for instance before modern nations made you guys with the nations grouped. You defend that. You can't defend. You're defending a quality of fact cheating nature that's already in collusion with what is really sick, insidiously to each spot against each person, distinctly and non-distinctly. Even presidents not allowed free speech. Now, There's a Russian family named Peruta, and they're with aggression from the background because they're trying to imply things. Now these are also with a Kerr family and people. These are people with the corners of Maple Street, also recorded and confessed to involved crimes with state's attorneys and with prosecutors and with their kids and with judges retired and standing. Even multiple women judges involved with child abuses, whole bunch of natures of it, sick with kids, even medical. Now these are medical racketeering roles that are also involved with criminality with words like ethics and like empathy, like regarding WFSB's roles with this. Retired and standing police force, state police, whole bunch of people involved with the transition from ALCA to RICO, where we had the FBI, other nations, overt criminal enterprises, intercities with the same ones involved criminally with that grammar school I went to. The same ones with crimes on and off the other grammar schools I didn't even go to. And one I went to for kindergarten. And one I went to for first grade before I went to the one near me. All those places have houses next to it that have connections to what they're using the drugs to keep. These are also people involved with Trade Center, Washington, D.C., Pentagon, intermilitary involved identity theft, sequence shift, names forging, name switching, mail crimes, crimes with media with those fake morality. See now because they have fact cheap nature racketeering, and now they have uses of all these groups self-defended as groups ulterior from culture's course, which is the trinities per fact cheap nature obligations by science actual, by volume science actual, not just volume theory, by volume science being denied by the people pretending to be about volume theory, not by accident. This is a fact cheaping nature racketeering impositions slash S. This is an organized crime we have to counter method, but that reveals the states and area. All we have to need it for evolution is recorded. These are not means. It's not even debatable what lies, tricks, criminally foreign influence, fact cheaping nature, racketeering, self-valued roles. All that was tied to that. The zoning laws of American or other nations, most beautiful landscapes in the world, pathology of infrastructure forced with the torture and slavery of our founders. Our founders say that because their job was they did this is way beyond divide and conquer. This is exploiting how our identity is also as a system, as a perfect value system that demonstrates it needs the difference between what is positive, what is logic to criminal insidiousness nature, especially legalized. You can't legalize it. And what is positive to our nature, what is positive to logic by our nature's course with no criminal foreign influences. Because again, the sciences share an identity, and demonstration needs equality of fact, cheap nature, prevented free speech, because we already have the branches of government individually grouped and together invested to offensive fact, cheap nature racketeering acts and crime methods and natures using other natures of crime. With these completely fact cheap nature racket, valuing databases. Everyone's facilitated to this. So they pretend not to realize, they pretend motives mean something it doesn't. So they can in background pretend they have the right to pretend they're innocent. In other words, they're preventing mandated law because they're the only one, they're the courts and they're the people with the guns involved and with the knife crimes, and we're putting little sneaky kids to go by to try to pretend things heard, because we have offensive evidence reception predators now recorded because they're preventing timely counters to their roles with crimes, all natures of child abuses with kids, even with women and men, a whole bunch of women doctors too, physical delusions, sick natures with kids. Then they pretend that people, because they're prejudiced against them because of their personal problems, issues in groups that they're proud of or whatever. That's fine. But let's stay on the sequence shifts and the rape threats and the drugs, untimely deaths that brought this up, the confessions and the forging names, switching names, mail crime rolls, wire crime rolls. The same people facilitated to federal crimes on of others I don't even know, because they put me in fake relationships to databases, fake locations next to people, sequence shifts. They stole my property, even like right in the context of my father's death in my on my campus at Trinity College. From off campus, then they don't give you their names. They play these name game. This is a sustained that Trinity CCSU involved the same people, federal former director of the FBI, a whole bunch of overt criminal enterprises, especially if they're undercover, because they're recorded with evidences, federal crimes together. Now this is recorded. They're also recorded with like two Mendes police faking things recorded, attaching me to fake conversations with them, putting the name of police equipment and putting me in a quote. They were involved with attaching me to fake locations. Their roles with identity theft, all kinds of federal crimes with judges and prison clicks and police forms before they were involved with the federal crimes as police forms on and off the Wethersfield Police Department, on and off New Britain Superior Court, involved with them with crimes with child sex offenders, even medical crime acts further, a whole bunch of doctors involved with them. They use a triage place to prevent my neighbors rolls with a whole bunch of people with retired and standing police forms, foreign and domestic, and military foreign and domestic, associated with a Kevin Dillon, Sean Dillon, Anna Dillon, also involved with like a whole bunch of even courts involved with Lena's Pizza, and with a whole bunch of people on off the intercampuses, even especially medical campuses, foreign and domestic, people associated even with marketing, especially regarding, because this is fact cheating nature organized crime. This is a self-defenses of positions and relationships to databases. So Facebook is also, they're preventing, they're forcing sequence shifts and with the judges and the police forms and the uses of their Facebook book pages, interbranch and intercampuses, with offensive sexual harassment of little girls, abuses of them, crime acts rolls with untimely death clicks tied in uses of the houses associated with that. See, they want they want and need people to fight everywhere, because they are already needing to stay offensive evidence reception crimes, pretending to perceive things, have things facilitated to pretend to perceive, like their uses of Facebook. There's a whole bunch of people with KNERR and with the name Kerr, KERR, and there's a Jerry Miller. There's a Jerry Miller associated with crimes with police forms on off my backyard, associated with also criminal uses of the witness protection program to facilitate things they've been ducking behind with their child offender roles. Now, see, they've been using all the shootings on the schools to prevent counters for crime methods they have recorded. Way worse than they're pretending to be against with the teachers paying extra for the kids. This is former director of the FBI down with other nations, though. Whole bunch of nations associated with a DeMoro family and with neighbors of his, recorded and confessed involved with federal crimes with them of various natures, as wrongdoing, though, too, as just little insidious things, as identity theft crime acts rolls, like crimes with verbal and formal contracts. Like, for example, when I was a kid, as a stranger, like these are people also with military crimes, foreign and domestic. These are also people recorded, confessed, to demonstrate a bunch of crimes with a Claudia Scalora, who was recorded, confessed, involved crimes with people on and off the trade center, on and off the and with her extended family member, with the ones in my houses in my area involved with the Scalora, with the subby Scalora. and other scleras. I don't know, a whole bunch of them. But they're associated with a DeMoro family that is also associated with my grammar school and with a whole bunch of people at CCSU. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated through time with an Abruzzi family, with training of prisons, leaderships, and things like that. With training of each with uses of each group of people associated with sensibilities, how used criminally into departments categorically. And again, sequentially, because this is the Wethersfield, a whole bunch of people from the are tied to the Wethersfield police chief, and his daughter also involved with the foreign and domestic families, with private criminal enterprises roles, and with crimes with the overt criminal enterprises, with the time sequence shifts, with the courts. See, they're preventing counters to courts that call you in there so they could switch names, forge names, make confessions, attach you and everyone you know to fake conversations, fake locations, fake sequences, and they make those confessions. And they pretend there was words that there never were. They're pretending people have behavior that they never had. They're pretending they had conversations with people tied to their family members of these courts too. They're involved with all kinds of witnesses pretending they don't want to show their witnesses. Their witnesses are fake. They're involved with racketeering with the courts. One-way reports. They're victim predators only realized the same way they have those with the Los Solitos entrenched with the Fox Connecticut News. A whole bunch of people on and off the locations there. A whole bunch of people associated with the DMV, with police forms associated with that, associated with CCSU racketeering on and off those campuses. They're also, again, their sequence shift. They need to pretend things. They're recorded needing to pretend to perceive things with passions and emotions that are criminally foreign influenced and delusions wrought, and sequence shifting styles. For example, with the roles recorded and confessed since before the Trade Center attack, before I ever saw the person in person. I mean, but in other words, there are a whole bunch of people on and off CCSU with the corners of it, recorded and confessed and demonstrated involved with racketeering, foreign and domestic military, shared policing of stores and stuff like that, natures of trade agreements. You can't defend it us at the same time. And that's with the Forsaken, no associated with the torture, organized crime, that method that our legal natures really had the obligation. They're victims of a child abuse method. This is keeping them live progressions. They're further involved with racketeering with various natures of courts involved with cases going on every day. They're incapable of having a case now. They're incapable of having election, not criminally foreign influences. All rolls with that. That's the only thing they let realized. You fakes. ACT breaks. So I don't know. WFSB and Better Connecticut are recorded and confessed and demonstrated further criminally involved with houses next to the principal sex offender school, and they had roles with that, especially if it was made up, because there were other people, a whole bunch of people also on off Two Route Highway, on off Hangdog Lane, further involved with the Justice Department in Washington, D.C., and Trade Center families that I know are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved further criminally with the campuses, and all private tied to them and criminally. And now these aren't opinions. This is recorded. These are people that are invested already to database racketeering, where they're stacking fake things in databases, needing to hide live progressions from that actually recorded. That's what these two Mendez police. There are two Domain brothers, and they have their family members also in their extended. There's extended family members also involved. All kinds of fire departments involve corruption. All kinds of on-off Fox Connecticut News, downtown Hartford, corruption interbranch through time. These are people involved in crimes with Russians and with medical families, foreign and domestic. A whole bunch of people associated with the John Miano with them, with federal crimes, with FBI, with judges retired and standing, people associated with these courts, families, also people associated with them, crimes with a Phil Cololo, and with other with women with the courts in that, with fake news crime acts, where they attach me to fake conversations. See, they're attaching me to fake conversations because of what they do with Facebook. They're starting fights, and then but they're doing it in ways where they're forging names and switching names with the judges that and with the courts, prosecutors long standing. When they say career prosecutor, those are criminally foreign influence tools, and way worse. Those aren't that's not science. Those are sequence shifting, evidence racketeering predator roles. Uses of statutes that say they could get away with that because they're criminally foreign influenced. And they're hiding exceptions of that for their perjury racketeering methods, roles, and actually recorded natures. WFSB is also involved with a whole bunch of people on off Fox Connecticut News, involved with database racketeering with them, mail crimes, wire crimes, identity thefts, identity frauds, extortion, torture. Okay, I have no, how can I have free speech? They make you pick what nature of racketeering they want you're going to counter. Now, see, this is sickly distinctly against people in suburbs because now you're isolated, and it's distinct and non-distinct. As what is non-distinctly in organized crime, sickly distinctly, however, on the urban areas. The same minority of people, but it's a whole bunch of names. They bring in hundreds and hundreds of names. I play no games. You know, if Facebook, if they're the worst in the land, they're involved with child trafficking too. Judges with them, attaching kids to fake locations through time. I just remind there are the locations in Hartford, a whole bunch of locations with the DeMoro family, people tied to them. People, a whole bunch of people in the Britain Superior Court, other Hartford courts, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated they have police in those places used for that. Yes.